There's a strange moment that almost everyone has experienced, even if they've never talked about it out loud. It's when something is given with genuine intention, and yet the reaction on the other side feels smaller than expected. Not negative, not ungrateful, just quiet. And in that silence, a question forms: why didn't that land the way I thought it would? That moment passes quickly, but it leaves a trace. A subtle confusion that doesn't disappear as easily as it should. What makes this moment so powerful is that it doesn't come from lack of effort. It comes from care, from trying, from showing up in the way that feels most natural, most honest, most right. And when that effort doesn't create the connection we expect, we don't usually blame the gesture. We start questioning ourselves. Was it not enough? Was it the wrong timing? Or was something deeper being missed entirely? Most people move on without answers, carrying that uncertainty into the next moment and the next. But what if that moment wasn't a failure at all? What if it was part of a much larger pattern, one that's been quietly shaping how people connect, misunderstand, and miss each other in the smallest ways? Once you recognize this pattern, those moments stop feeling random. They start forming a story. And by the end of that story, you realize something important. Love doesn't disappear when it goes unnoticed. It just speaks a different language. Words of affirmation. Words can seem small on the surface, but for some people, they carry weight long after the moment has passed. A single sentence can replay in the mind for hours, sometimes days. It's not about flattery or exaggeration. It's about being seen out loud. When appreciation is spoken, it settles something internally, like a quiet confirmation that effort mattered and presence was noticed. What often goes unnoticed is how deeply silence can register in the same space. When words are expected but never arrive, the absence doesn't feel neutral, it feels personal. Not because anyone intended harm, but because the mind starts filling in the gaps. If it mattered, wouldn't it have been said? That question lingers longer than most people realize, shaping emotions in subtle, cumulative ways. For someone who values words, affirmation isn't optional, it's oxygen. Encouragement doesn't just boost confidence, it builds momentum. Compliments don't inflate ego, they create safety. When words are consistent, they form a foundation that allows everything else to stand taller. And when they're missing, even the strongest actions can feel strangely hollow. Here, where the misunderstanding deepens. The absence of verbal affirmation is rarely intentional. In fact, appreciation may be expressed constantly through effort, time, or sacrifice. But when love is spoken in a different form, it can pass right through unnoticed, like a message delivered in the wrong dialect. Nothing is wrong with the message. The translation is what fails. Once this is understood, past moments begin to rearrange themselves. The silence after effort, the craving for reassurance that never quite went away, the relief that came from one unexpected sentence. Words were never about excess, they were about clarity. And when love is finally spoken in a way that can be heard, it doesn't just connect two people, it makes everything that came before suddenly make sense. Quality time. Time is the one thing everyone spends, but not everyone gives. For some, love isn't measured by proximity or shared schedules. It's measured by attention. Being in the same place doesn't count if the mind is somewhere else. What matters is presence that feels intentional, moments where distractions fall away and focus becomes a quiet form of care. There's a specific feeling that comes with this kind of time. Conversations stretch a little longer than planned. Silence feels comfortable instead of awkward. Laughter arrives naturally, without effort. In these moments, connection doesn't need to be announced, it's felt. And when they happen regularly, they create a sense of security that's hard to explain but easy to miss when it fades. What makes this language so easy to overlook is how invisible its absence can be. Life stays busy. Days still move forward. Nothing appears broken on the surface. Yet something subtle shifts when shared moments are replaced with half attention and constant interruption. The connection doesn't vanish. It thins, quietly, almost politely, until someone starts wondering when together stopped feeling together. Here's the tension most people never name. Time may still be offered generously, just not in the form that resonates. Tasks are completed, responsibilities are handled, care is shown efficiently. But for someone who speaks this language, efficiency can feel like distance. Love isn't about how much is done, it's about how fully a moment is shared. When this finally clicks, memories take on new meaning. The moments that felt richest weren't the biggest events, they were the ones where nothing else competed for attention. Quality time was never about quantity, it was about depth. And when love is expressed in undivided presence, it doesn't demand more time, it transforms the time that's already there. Receiving gifts. Gifts are often misunderstood because they're visible. People assume they're about expense, frequency, or obligation. But for some, a gift is never just an object. It's a message frozen in time. It says, I noticed this, I remembered you, and I chose you in a moment when you weren't there. The value isn't in what's given, but in the intention quietly wrapped inside it. What makes this language powerful is how memory and meaning intertwine. A small, thoughtful item can outlast a dozen spoken promises because it becomes a symbol. It carries a story, where it was found, why it was chosen, what it represents. Long after the moment has passed, that object still speaks, reminding someone that they crossed another person's mind without needing to ask. The absence of gifts is rarely felt as greed or entitlement. Instead, it shows up as a question that never quite finds words. Was I thought of? Did I matter in the quiet moments? When gestures stop appearing, it's not the lack of things that's noticed, it's the silence of intention, the feeling that no one paused long enough to remember. Here, where the misunderstanding sharpens. Love may be expressed constantly through effort, presence, or loyalty, and all of that is real. But when affection isn't symbolized, it can slip through unnoticed. It's not that other expressions don't count, they simply don't translate. The thought was there, but the evidence never arrived. Once this is understood, the meaning of gifts changes completely. They're no longer measured by size or cost, but by awareness. A gift becomes a pause in someone's day, a moment of recognition. And when love is expressed this way, it doesn't demand extravagance, it simply says, "You were remembered," and sometimes, that's the loudest message of all. Acts of service. Some people express care through movement rather than speech. Love to them is practical. It shows up early, stays late, and handles what needs to be done without making noise about it. These are the people who notice what's missing, anticipate what's needed, and step in quietly. For them, effort is not a favor, it's a language. What makes this form of love so powerful is its consistency. It's in the repeated actions that make life smoother, lighter, more manageable. These acts don't ask for applause, but they do carry meaning. Each task completed is a silent message. I'm paying attention. You don't have to carry this alone. Over time, these moments stack into something steady and dependable. The tension begins when this effort blends into the background. When help becomes expected instead of recognized, it can start to feel invisible. Not unappreciated in a dramatic sense, just unseen. And when acts of service go unnoticed, the giver may wonder if their presence is felt at all, even though they've been showing it every day. At the same time, the care being given may not register on the other side in the way it was intended. Support can feel practical rather than emotional, useful rather than meaningful. Love may be working overtime, but if it's spoken in actions alone, its message can be missed entirely. The work was done, the connection wasn't felt. Once this gap is understood, the story shifts. Those quiet efforts take on new weight. The routine tasks stop feeling ordinary and start revealing intention. Acts of service were never about obligation. They were about devotion expressed through effort. And when love is finally recognized in what's done, not just what's said, it transforms everyday actions into something deeply personal. Physical touch. For some people, connection is felt before it's understood. It lives in closeness, in contact that doesn't need explanation. A hand resting nearby, a brief embrace, the comfort of physical presence. These moments communicate safety and reassurance without a single word. Touch in this language isn't an accessory to love. It is the message. What makes physical touch so powerful is its immediacy. It grounds emotion in the present moment. Where words can be misunderstood and actions can be overlooked, touch is felt instantly. It creates warmth, calm, and a sense of belonging that logic can't replicate. In these moments, affection isn't analyzed, it's experienced. When this language is missing, the absence can feel disorienting. Not dramatic, not obvious, just distant. The space between people grows even when everything else appears unchanged. And without touch, reassurance has to work harder to be believed. The connection doesn't disappear, it simply loses its anchor. Here, where misunderstanding often deepens, care may still be expressed generously through loyalty, time, or effort, and all of it is real. But for someone who speaks this language, affection without closeness can feel theoretical. Love may be known intellectually, yet not felt emotionally. The intention is there, the sensation is. Once this is recognized, physical touch takes on new meaning. It's no longer seen as neediness or habit, but as communication, a reminder of presence, a confirmation of closeness. And when love is expressed through touch, it doesn't ask for grand gestures. It asks for connection that can be felt, not explained. Conclusion. By now, the story has revealed something subtle but powerful. Every expression of care you've seen, spoken, shared, given, done, or felt was real from the moment it was offered. Nothing was missing. Nothing was fake. The disconnect was never about effort or intention, but about expression. Love was present in every chapter, quietly moving through different forms, waiting to be understood rather than proven. Once this idea settles in, perspective shifts. Past moments that once felt confusing begin to line up. The gestures that didn't land, the ones that meant everything, the reasons certain actions stayed with you while others faded instantly. It all starts pointing to the same truth. Connection deepens not when love increases, but when it's recognized in the language it's being spoken. So here's the quiet invitation. Start noticing, not fixing, not correcting, just paying attention. Watch how care shows up around you and how you naturally express it yourself. Because the moment love is understood, it stops feeling uncertain and starts feeling unmistakable. And sometimes, awareness alone is enough to change everything.